Greetings everyone through here. Welcome to the Demo Hub. Today we're going to have a really fun lecture working with external tables within Snowflake. Now, external tables is a very powerful concept in Snowflake that allows you to take advantage of data coming in from a cloud object store as an example. You might have some files coming in from AWS S3 bucket. This could be Azure Blob Storage or Google GCS, and from within Snowflake, we want to go in with an external table, have a view on that data, and be able to externally query that data from the Snowflake interface. This will be a fun lecture. We're going to go through step by step on how to get this all set up, the things that are needed on the Snowflake side, as well as the things you need on the AWS side to get set up. Now, timestamps to all of the things we'll do will be left in the description below. If you want to skip and go to different parts of this lecture, you are more than welcome to do so. Secondly, we are also going to work within AWS and create keys. So you might see certain keys I create, but be rest assured right after the demonstration, this environment will be taken down, all those keys will be reset. There's no need bother trying to use those keys. So this is just a demo purpose. Before this video goes up or this lecture goes up, all of that environment will be reset. Now, that said, creating an external table in Snowflake could be very straightforward. There are a couple of ways to do that. Right here is a worksheet where we are going to do a lot of the work. But for you as a user, one way of doing it visually is to come back over, go to data, databases, browse into the database of interest. So let's find the schema of interest. And here we can have tables, but stay on the schema. And in here, we can create table. And there are many options to create table. You can create a standard table. You can create table as select, or you can create an external table. Now, this gives us a script to do so. Now, an external table is going to require a stage location. So creating a stage is a prerequisite for creating an external table. Now, let's go back and see how we can create a stage, because we're going to need that for creating the external table, and we'll explain what a stage is. Go back to public schema, click create. Instead of table, we want to create the stage we need before. So here we're going to create a stage, and we don't need a managed stage. We're going to need an external stage pointing to S3. Click Amazon S3. This gives us a nice, really cool interface for creating a stage pointing to S3. Give this a name, and this requires a URL. The URL for this will be the S3 bucket. So we're going to go through step by step how to do it with the UI, but more importantly, we're also going to go back and show you how to do this with the script. What is the URL for the S3 bucket? What you want to do for this is go back over to Amazon for the S3 environment you're working with. Search for S3 because that's what we need. Find the environment. Here I have just one bucket, and this bucket will get deleted right after this, so don't bother trying to use this bucket. And for all we need is we just want to copy this bucket URL and paste that here. That's all we need for this. So we'll create into a stage. Now from Snowflake, we want to read this bucket. Give it a comment. It's always recommended. And if this bucket was set up publicly available, then you can go ahead without authentication, but more likely than not, that bucket will not be wide open. So in here, my bucket has just one file. In that case, you're going to want to set up certain authentications, which is what we'll see, because the bucket does have some permissions set up. We will go back in here, and for authentication, select authentication as true. Turn on or toggle that on. And here, this is going to ask for two types of authentication. There is a storage integration that uses the IAM Row, or there is a credentials. So if you're going to go with credentials, you have an AWS principal with the key and the secret, you're more than happy to do that. This demo will not focus on that. The demo is going to focus on the scenario where you want to use your storage integration. I will touch on this. Now, for storage integration, it does need to exist. I will touch on what the storage integration is. So here I have one storage integration existing already, but we're going to go into talking about how to create a storage integration. Cancel this for now. We're going to come back to this. Or as a matter of fact, let's just duplicate the screen. Keep this. We started trying to create an external table. The external table needed a stage. we went in trying to create a stage. The stage needs a storage integration. So now we're going to go in to create a storage integration and then work our way back. Here, let's go ahead and click on create, and you can see there is a nice GUI interface and also the ability to do that from the worksheet. Here, we're going to create a storage integration pointing to Amazon S3. The steps are pretty much similar doing for any hyperscaler or any cloud provider. Click on Amazon S3. It gives us the boilerplate script for creating a storage integration. Think about the storage integration as what you need to authenticate and to connect your principals from Snowflake and the trust relationship going into Amazon S3 to do the reading. Let's open this in a worksheet, or we can actually just copy this over, come back into our demo environment. Now we are in step number 1, and this step is creating a storage integration. Create a storage integration, give it a name, call this DemoHub storage integration. The type of the storage integration will be external. Storage provider is S3. Now it does need an AWS Row on, enable true, and then at the allowed locations. For this, it's very straightforward. We know what the allowed location would be, so we can go ahead and delete that. I'm going to end this. So we need just this. Now, the allowed location, if we go back, will be the location going to the S3 bucket. In this case, will be this S3 bucket location. Copy that and throw that in here. Paste that in here. That is good. The next thing we need to proceed is to get the AWS Row on. Now, I'm going to show a basic way of doing this. Obviously, if you're doing this at an enterprise level, you're going to want to follow your enterprise security protocols and best practices. So just from a high level, we're going to go back over to AWS to get what we need for this AWS Row on. To do that, we're going to come back over and search for a couple of things. The first one is we're going to search for IAM. Now search for IAM and click on this. This is going to bring you to the IAM area. What we need is the roles here to use. Go ahead, select on roles, and we're going to create a new role. This role should have access to the S3 bucket we're trying to reach from. So go ahead, click on create role, and there are several options. There is the first option for AWS service. So allow an AWS service like EC2 and Lambda. That's not what we want. We want either an AWS account or third-party applications to interact with the service. Select that, and the rest should be pretty much the same. Now, this is the location where we give the access we want. So here we want S3. And so in our case, go ahead, search for S3, do a wildcard search. I will give full access to this. So Amazon S3 full access. I can also go ahead and give it the read access. That's just for the sake of the demo. Again, this environment is not going to persist for too long. Select those and give that access to the bucket. Next, we're good. So let's give this a role a name. So in this case, we're going to call this the DemoHub S3 Row 1. You can give it a description, and that should be pretty much good. There are some things we're going to have to edit, but for now, let's save this role, and this role should exist. Now, the role we've just created exists in here. Go ahead and click on that. This is the role we've created. It exists, and we want this on to use. So you can go ahead and copy this on, and this is what we need for our storage integration. So paste this on here, and in theory, we should be good, but we're going to notice that there will be an error, and we're going to have to come back and take care of that error. So assuming that we have everything working, which we don't yet, because we still have to do a couple of things for this to actually work. Just assume for a second that this is working. What we're going to do here now is create this storage integration. Typically, I like to do, let's zoom in here for 1 second. Move this to the side. So typically, I like to do this in a way that is more visible. So go ahead, create or replace storage integration, because we will run this a couple of times. So do that. And it says the storage integration has been created successfully. In theory, even though this would not work, but just bear with me for a second. We're going to come back to this. Now, if we have a storage integration, this storage integration is called DemoHub storage integration. Now we can go backwards and use this for creating a stage. So before we created the stage leveraging, so if we go back here to our script, we were going through the process of creating a stage here. We can do this with a UI, but what I'm going to do is just simply paste a script that should help us create a stage inside of our script. So back to our tables, we now are progressing. So back to our tables, we now are progressing to step number 2, which is creating a stage, and that stage would take advantage of a storage integration. So the way this works for this is, let me make some more real estate here. We are doing create or replace stage, and you want to give this a stage name. So let's call this DemoHub underscore stage, STG. And this refers to the S3 bucket that we want. And for us to read this bucket, remember, we have this bucket in the allowed list, so we're pretty much good to go from there. Now, the storage integration we need is not this storage integration anymore. We want the storage integration that has just been created. So go ahead and replace that. We can make this into a directory table. If you're not sure what a directory table is, we've made demos on that. Watch out for the channel for demos about what a directory table is, but this is really, really good. It indexes that location and makes it easy to search. So here, in theory, as I mentioned before, if everything works, we should be able to now create a stage. And if we have a stage, we can use that to create an external table. But what you see here is this will give us an issue when creating this stage, and we're going to have to resolve that issue. So this has executed, and there is a SQL error. This error is telling us, if you can see this here, error assuming AWS role. Please verify the role and the external ID are configured correctly in your AWS policy. So I totally expected this error to come true. Now, the way we're going to resolve this is really easy to fix. And again, all of this will be deleted after the demo, so don't bother trying to copy this. So what I'm going to do here is describe. We're going to do a simple describe. We want to describe this integration. So we want to describe this integration. So do a describe integration, paste that integration to be described. So very straightforward. This will give us a couple of key properties we need to create a trust relationship between Snowflake coming in and the AWS side of the world. The two things we need, obviously the ARN, which we were working with. We also need this AWS external ID in this case. Be rest assured every time, for the most part, let's actually try this. So pay attention, this is 2000 and this ends with an HNU equals to sign, okay? 2000 HNU. So if I go back, what I'm gonna do is I'll create my storage integration, recreate the storage integration one more time. So that has been recreated, and do a describe again. Let's see if the values are the same. If you notice, the ARN stays the same, but the external ID has changed. So if you use this and you set it up on the AWS side to create a trust relationship, this is something to be aware that every time you do a recreation of that stage, you're going to have to go back and get these values and update it on the AWS side. So something to be aware of. All right. So now we have this. How do we use this on the AWS side to get a trust relationship between Snowflake and AWS? The first thing we're going to do for this is copy. We'll start with the ARN. So copy this ARN. I've copied that to my clipboard, or you can come in here and copy that to your clipboard. Go back over to the AWS side of the world, and we're going to look for the role we created. Was this a DemoHub S3 role 1? Click on the role. Now, what we need to do is we're not going to edit that. We really want to come in and update the trust relationship. So click on trust relationships, and this is the default value from the trusted entities. This is what we need to modify to have a trusted relationship with Snowflake. Edit the trust properties. For this location, there are a couple of things that we need to do to make this work. One is to add the condition that allows Snowflake string to be recognized by this trust relationship. For the first one, come in here on the add a condition. So add a condition. In this case, we want to do STS. So search for STS. and external ID. So we need external ID. So click on that, leave that as default. On the operator, you're going to want to do string like for that and pasting. Actually, we're pasting in the wrong value. So let's go back. We want to paste in the external ID. This is the storage AWS external ID. That's what we want. So copy that, go over and paste that value in here. That's all we need. Add the condition. And now that condition has been added into this trust policy. Here we have the on coming in as root. We also want to modify that. Go back for this, copy that, copy this on, the on we have here, IAM user role, and you can simply directly modify this, delete, and paste that. So save, update the policy, save. For the most part, we should be good. So now this role should have the trust from Snowflake to read the S3 bucket as such. Go back, and we don't want to we don't want to describe this anymore because the values don't change, and we certainly don't want to recreate this storage integration. So what I typically do is I would just somehow put this comment that out just so that by error we don't accidentally recreate that. Now we have the trust policy set up. We can go back and try recreating the stage. If you remember, we had an error when creating the stage the previous time. Go ahead, click on the create or replace stage. With any luck, we should be successful this time. Just like that, now we have a stage created. Working our way backwards, we started by trying to create an external table. External table needed a stage needed a storage integration. We've created a storage integration. We've set up all the things on the AWS side. We have a storage integration. We've created the stage. Now we have a stage. You can actually test the stage to see that we can read the data from the stage in Snowflake by doing a list command. So ls add, and the stage name is, we should see the content of the stage. So this allows you, a stage allows you from within Snowflake to query S3 buckets externally. That's the whole idea of a stage looking at data externally in Snowflake, and we create an external table on that. Now we have a stage all ready to go. The last thing we want to do, taking advantage of this stage, is to create an external table that references that stage. I do know there is data in there, so we have one file, and we can create a table that reads that file. The syntax for that is very straightforward to create an external table. For that, let's leverage a syntax that looks like this. So this will create an external table for us. So create or replace. The predicate here is external. So this tells Snowflake is an external table. We've done a demo on the different table types in Snowflake. If you haven't watched that, there are many different table types. I recommend check out the demo from transient tables, permanent tables, external tables, hybrid tables, dynamic tables. There are a lot of tables. External tables is one of them, and that's the focus for today. So here, create or replace external table, and you can directly pull in the values you want. Check the documentation for the syntax. There are different ways of reading data from an external table. We're just using one of them here. The important thing is it looks at a stage. So one of the requirements or the parameter for an external table is the stage to read from. So here we're going to read from location, and this location will be the S3 bucket. Replace that with the stage we just created, S3 DemoHub STG. So replace that with the stage. The file format in that location is of type CSV. So pretty straightforward. Create this table or create or replace that table. And now we have successfully created an external table in Snowflake called demo external table. And you can query that external table by doing a select statement on that table. This will give us the full blob of what is in the table, as well as the specific attributes. So customer ID is in the table, and we're pulling that from the first value, last name, email, phone number. And right in Snowflake, we are querying an external table in Snowflake, and we've seen how to do all the setup from doing the storage integration, creating the stage, setting up the trust policy in the AWS side of things, and then using that to create an external table. So really, really powerful. Now, there's a couple of things that are important to be aware of. Now that we have this external stage or this stage pointing externally in Snowflake, you can do a lot with it. If we come back over here, the name of the stage we created was, just one more check, it was called S3 DemoHub STG. So S3 DemoHub stage. So you see that showing up here. You can view the files that are sitting directly here externally. You can work with these files. You can load these files into a table. If you don't want the data sitting externally, you can load this into a table. Because this is a directory table, this gets refreshed. There are a whole lot of things that opens up a world of possibility from a data engineering perspective, taking advantage of data coming into say an S3 bucket, and you being able to quickly load that into a Snowflake table. In future demos, we're going to touch on that, but hopefully this tutorial and this lecture for today has given you a good step-by-step guide for getting up and running with the Snowflake extended table. And as always, timestamps to all of this will be in the description below. If you have any comments, feedback, let us know in the comment section below. We'll see what I can do. And as we mentioned in the beginning of the demo and the tutorial, all of these principles will be deleted. So there's no point trying to use them, because for sensitivity, all of that will be deleted. Again, thanks for watching and sticking to the end. This has been Fro here with DemoHub for today's lecture. I'll see you in the next demo.